A man was shot by Johnny Paycheck in 1985. He got hit in the head by the bullet, but that wasn't the worst thing he did that year. His age was 47, and he had 2 loaded guns on stage with him. He was also wearing a safety vest. He was spending $1.2 million while owing $300,000 to the IRS. His biggest hit played on the radio while he was in rehab and couldn't enjoy. By the time he died alone in a hospital room in 2003, his son had already said goodbye by 20 minutes. This is the video that showed the whole terrible event. His real name is Donald Eugene Lytle, and he was born on May 31, 1938 in Greenfield, Ohio. There was still a lot of damage from the Great Depression in America. Like everyone else, his family had a hard time. His dad had more than one job just to keep the family going. Trump grew up in a small farming town where people didn't have much money and didn't have much hope. From the start he was antsy and crazy. That hard childhood made him who he is today. It taught him a lot about hardship, and that feeling never left his songs. Donald went on stage for the first time when he was only 9 years old. He won $5 by singing Hank Williams' "Your Cheatin' Heart." In 1947, $5 was a lot of money for a kid. Today that much would fetch $60. He lost all of his money. Instead he bought candy and comic books. It would become a habit to spend money without thinking. Besides that, it showed how quickly he lived and how little he cared about being safe. He liked sad songs even when he was 9 years old. It wasn't a mistake. For years to come, his life would be like those words. He was tired of school by age 15. Leaving school, he hit the road and hitched rides through the Midwest. He sang in honky-tonks to get food and spare change. He slept in barns or outside most nights. He would lie about his age to get into bars. He needed some music. He was going to do it no matter what. There were fights, gambling, and shady people in the honky-tonk scene. Trump did well though. He quickly learned how to read a room and stay alive. His songs had more edge because of that real experience. He didn't just sing about having a hard time, he actually did it. He joined the Navy when he was 17. He might have thought it would help him, but after a few weeks his defiant side blew up. Donald lost it when his superior officer wouldn't let him go see his dying grandma. The cop was hit so hard that he broke the man's nose and hit him in the head. Everything changed in that one moment. He was found guilty by a court-martial and sent to military jail. He never again trusted people in charge. His songs would have a theme of hate for rules and power for many years. It turned out to be where he began making songs. People he met while he was locked up at Portsmouth Naval Prison for 2 years taught him how to play the guitar. Writing songs on stolen paper and making instruments out of bits was what they did. He shared a cell with someone who used to play session music in Nashville before they ran away. That man taught Donald how to write a good song and play the guitar well. The school was in a strange place, but it worked. He wasn't just tougher when he got out of jail. He was better. He got to Nashville in 1958 with only $37 in his pocket. For almost 3 weeks he slept in his car outside of the Grand Ole Opry. He washed dishes at Crystal at night for 60 cents an hour and cleaned up public bathrooms during the day. To stay alive, he ate broken-down burgers. He was busy going backstage and shaking hands during the day. Though, he was poor, but he was also driven. Only that hunger to stay alive and sing kept him going. That was enough. After 2 years he made his first song under the name Donnie Young. Wonder of Love was the name of it. He thought it would be his big break. It wasn't. Only 847 copies of the song were sold all over the country. Decca Records fired him right away. He kept the letter telling him no in his guitar case for many years. To help him remember, it almost broke him, but it also made him stronger. He now knew that the music business could take everything away from you. He turned around. He got a job as a backup bassist and got paid $3 an hour. He worked on more than 200 tracks from 1960 to 1962. There was an early demo for Tammy Wynette in one of them. The hours were very long. The pay was awful. He lived off of coffee and food from vending machines, some days for whole days. He didn't get any points, but he did learn. He looked into how songs were made, how studios worked, and how stars were made. He was getting ready for his second shot slowly. He got a job playing bass for George Jones in 1962. There was a big chance, but there was also chaos. Both men drank a lot. After a fight in Texas one night, while both were drunk, George left Donald at a gas station with no money and no way to get home. Donald had to walk 200 miles back to Nashville to get home. Still, it was clear that they got along on stage. Donald added depth to Jones's shows with his duets. It didn't matter how many bad drinks they had together. He became an important part of the sound. George Jones put out The Race Is On in 1964, and even though it was one of his biggest hits, most of his fans never knew that Donald sang the chorus parts. He was still only getting $50 a week. No thanks and no profits. He only got paid for the song that sold over 500,000 copies. That lie made him think about it. Later in his career, he started to expect fair terms. He never forgot how easy it was for the system to take your work and leave you behind. That fear of the unknown helped him sometimes. Sometimes it made people hate him, but it came from real pain and gave his rebel country music a truth that was impossible to fake. In 1964, Donald Eugene Little, a poor country singer, went to a courthouse in Greenfield, Ohio to try to start over. It was important to him that the name he chose was tough and sound like trouble. That's what he meant to write down. A boxer from Chicago named Johnny Paycheck stood out to him. But he spelled it wrong when it was time to sign the papers. He added one more C, which made it a paycheck. It would have cost him $25 to fix the mistake, and he didn't even have that. He left it. Then, there you have it. Johnny Paycheck was born. Not the fighter, but the bad boy country singer who caused trouble for decades. It worked out great, the name. People who were sick of their bosses' bills and not having enough money sang for him. It stuck because of a man named who barely had one singing about leaving jobs and breaking the law. It worked. It gave him an edge that no well-groomed Nashville star could copy. Paycheck signed with Little Darlin' Records the next year. In 1965, that's when his first hit, A11, came out. It was taped on Music Row over the course of 14 hours. It got to number 35 on the country charts. He got a royalty check for exactly $847 for it. He was 27 years old and had never seen so much money before. Before cashing the check, he looked at it for almost an hour. After that, he lost it. For $600, he bought a 1962 Cadillac DeVille that was in bad shape. I spent $150 on fancy stage clothes and the last $97 on parties at Tootsie's Orchid Lounge for 3 days in a row. That check did more than just buy him things. It gave him hope. He might be able to make it after all if he could get that from just one song. Being Johnny Paycheck wasn't just about music though. It was also dangerous. And in the beginning of 1966, danger came after him. An angry woman named Dolores McKenzie surrounded him in the Mobile, Alabama, parking lot with a loaded .38 revolver while he was playing at a rough little spot. She told him she would kill them both if he left her because she thought they were meant to be together. Paycheck calmed her down in some way, and he left shaking. He bought a .22 gun for $35 the next day. After that night, he carried it on stage at first to keep himself safe. After that, it was just part of the show. He would sometimes shoot blanks into the air while singing a crazy song. Fans loved it. He didn't just sing lawless country, he lived it. He wrote a song called The Lovin' Machine that same year. He knew it was rough and dirty. Radio stations went crazy when people said things like "push my buttons right and I'll work all night." It was banned by 47 stations across the Bible Belt in just 2 weeks. Some DJs even broke the records live on air, but the music was already hot before it was banned. A lot of people went a long way just to get it. 89,000 units were sold. It taught Paycheck a lesson that would guide his work for the rest of his life. People like controversy. By March 1967, Paycheck had been asked to play on the Grand Ole Opry, which was the biggest stage in country music. He should have been happy, but he got drunk instead. He began at the bar Ernest Tubbs Record Shop and kept going. When he went on stage at 9:47 p.m. to perform A11, he was shaking, slurring his words and barely standing. Then he threw up in the middle of the song. There it is. To the holy 6-foot circle of wood that was cut from the Ryman stage. The crowd was surprised and quiet. There was no way for Paycheck to know what had happened. He kept singing while he was messy. He was taken off by security. He was kicked off the Opry for 2 years. That disaster made him look bad forever. He wasn't just a random player. He caused a lot of trouble in boots. In 1971, 4 years after that, he signed with Epic Records. Right away, he had a fight with the famous director Billy Sherrill, who wanted to make things sound better. I needed grit for Paycheck. Page lost it when Sherrill tried to add strings to one of his songs. He took his Gibson J's 45 and threw it out the window of the studio. What's wrong? $2,300. For weeks pieces of glass were found, but Cheryl didn't leave. He knew it was hard to make ends meet, but he was smart. They made She's All I Got that same year. Paycheck was so drunk and high that he couldn't even remember making the payment. He had been drinking and using drugs a lot for 3 days. He had to be given the words one line at a time by Cheryl. The track was perfect for 14 hours. Page heard the song on the radio and thought it was someone else when it came out and went to number 2 on the charts. Before he could sing it live, his band had to teach him the words. Things got worse the following year. In 1972, a man named Harold Morrison, who worked for TV, pulled him away after a show at the Grand Ole Opry House. He suggested that Paycheck clean up for TV shows across the country. Paycheck hit him in the face in response. The executive got hit by the amps and had to stay in the hospital for 2 days. He needed 12 stitches. Paycheck walked up to him and told him, "I'd rather play honky tonks for the rest of my life than give up my soul to TV." That quote was all over the news. He became famous after the punch. Paycheck began working on an album called Somebody Loves Me in 1973. It quickly turned into a drug-fueled nightmare. He would lock himself in a hotel room for 72 hours and write songs while high. Anyone he didn't like would not work with him. He thought the mics were cursed. He thought that older takes had messages hidden in them. He did 43 takes of singing over for just one track. It costs $47,000 to run a studio. Even though things were crazy, Epic almost dropped him. But the record still got made. His fear had reached a peak by that time. He always had 2 loaded guns with him, a .38 in a holster on his shoulder and a .22 in his boot. He also wore a custom-made money belt that held $10,000 in cash. All the time, even on stage. He would sometimes pause in the middle of a song to count it all over again. He said it was for safety. He told the press that this job would kill them. In November 1974, he was caught with guns at the airport. He got a $5,000 fine. It was all over the news. After the fact, Paycheck's manager said that he spent more than $200,000 in cash from 1973 to 1975. He even gave large amounts of money to strangers he thought were in the business world as a way to get them to keep quiet. In 1977, Johnny Paycheck was very happy. His country song Take This Job and Shove It stayed at the top of the charts for 2 weeks. Over 2.3 million copies were sold and he became well known. While the song was going up the charts, Johnny wasn't doing interviews, traveling, or having a party. He was getting help. The best thing that happened to him happened at the worst possible time. A Hollywood movie was based on the song, which was number 1 on the charts for 18 weeks. It was a hit in working-class America. Paycheck, on the other hand, was in a war with drugs and drink that cost him everything. That event should have made a huge difference in his life. It did, but not how anyone thought it would. He made $890,000 in 1978, just 1 year after his big hit. But instead of getting rich, he lost $1.2 million. It was mostly spent on drugs, alcohol, and court fees. The people in his group helped the party go on. He started having more and more problems with the government. After each other came lawsuits, arrests, and problems with the IRS. The IRS put a lien on his property for $103,000 in 1982. After a few years, they paid $300,000 to add another one. It was 1990 before he filed for bankruptcy. The money came quickly, but his demons came even faster. He soon also couldn't run faster than her. His private life was just as crazy. He got married to Sharon Ray and the 2 of them had a kid. But the marriage didn't last long. There were rumors that she had an affair with a backup singer who was 19 years old while they were on their vacation. It doesn't matter if that story is true or not, their relationship couldn't last through the Paycheck's lawsuits and drug problems. He was charged with juvenile rape in Wyoming in 1981. He pleaded guilty to a lower crime. Sharon stuck by him through years of bad press, cases, and courtrooms, but she finally lost it. Their marriage was hurt so badly that it could not be fixed. Paycheck's behavior at his shows got stranger and stranger. He said that his band was stealing from his changing room one night in Detroit. He fired everyone in the group in the middle of the show. After the show, he played his guitar by himself to end it. A lot of people had these kinds of meltdowns. He hurt relationships in the business world and turned off people who used to trust him. Because he was violent and paranoid, his image fell apart. He wasn't the only one who heard the threats. He began putting on a protective vest before gigs. He thought that angry drug sellers and ex-girlfriends were after him. He had a lot of enemies, and the IRS was after him. While his life fell apart behind the scenes, he kept acting. When 1985 came around, things broke down. He pulled out a .22 caliber gun and shot a man in a Hillsboro, Ohio bar during a fight. The bullet just missed the man's head. After firing the gun, Johnny Paycheck didn't hang around. Getting into his gold 1983 Cadillac Eldorado, he drove off on State Route 62, going north. People who saw him said he was going over 80 miles per hour in a 45-minute zone. The chase took place in 3 different states. Drivers were in danger because bright lights were following him, but it wasn't that long. Police found his car parked at a Flying J truck stop near Wilmington, Ohio at 1:47 a.m., just over 43 miles from the bar where it all began. The engine was still going. The radio played his own hit over and over. "Don't bother with this job." The paycheck was given out while driving. The .22 caliber pistol was still warm on the passenger seat. It had 1 spent shell and 4 live shots inside. A broken bottle of Jack Daniels was found on the floor. His blood alcohol level was 0.24, which is 3 times the legal limit and is very high. Police shook him awake. He said something about his pride and that he was related to Johnny Cash, and refused to be arrested. Even though it wasn't true, the moment was caught on video by a TV group listening to police scanners. That video was shown all over the land, and that was the end of what little work he had left in his career. The trial began on March 15, 1986. Pay didn't feel bad at all from the start. Like he was on a press tour, he stood on the steps of the building and talked to people. He told Larry Wise what was coming to him. "I think I would aim better if I had to do it again." In the prosecutor's final case, that quote was very important. Outside of court, he wasn't any quieter. He spoke over the judge, got into a fight with the lawyers, and at one point got up and started singing his old hit again until bailiffs stopped him. 14 people spoke out. The police had video recording, ballistics and medical information. Larry Wise, the victim, lost his hearing permanently and had headaches all the time. The defense tried to say that Paycheck was briefly crazy because he was drinking and stressed out. But his public tantrums killed any chance of understanding. They came back in just over 2 hours on April 3rd and found him guilty on all counts. 9 years and 7 months in jail is his term. He was sent to the Chillicothe Correctional Building. Inside, life was terrible. At first, he didn't want to go to rehab. They were there for him even though he didn't think he needed them. He was well known, that made him a target. Other prisoners wanted to hurt him or use him. To stay alive, someone even tried to stab him with a sharp toothbrush. He teamed up with jail gangs. The man who used to be proud on stage was now in jail trying to stay alive. But something changed. Payment Plan said he found God around the year 1988. After 2 years, he went deeper after having a heart attack in his cell. He changed his mind and became a Christian. He began to lead Bible studies, write religious songs, and talk to young people about not using drugs. It looked like he would have to spend every day of his term since his appeal had been turned down. He didn't give up though. Not for the cameras or the music business, but just for himself. He left early in January 1991. Ohio Governor Richard Celeste let him go after only 22 months in prison. The outside world, though, had changed. Things had changed in country music. The charts were full of new stars. Radio didn't want to play songs about criminals. The venues did not want to take the chance. Labels didn't want all the trouble. He tried to get better, but it was hard. He still owed money. Taxes that are over $1.6 million late. His first show after getting out of jail said it all. The place could hold 2,000 people. Only 89 people showed up. He cried on stage. He said sorry. He cried. It was honest, raw, and moving. He didn't stop though. He did small shows. He told kids to stay away from drugs. He did it again, and slowly it worked. He made things right when the Grand Ole Opry made him a member in 1997. As the 1980s went on, Paycheck's funds fell apart totally. He owed the IRS more than $300,000. He changed his name to John Austin Paycheck to get his business back on track, but it didn't work. His records stopped being bought. His songs stopped making the charts. He was broke and mostly forgotten by the end of the decade. It was official when they filed for bankruptcy in 1990. He had lost everything. Then the hardest part came. After a show in Casper, Wyoming in 1981, Paycheck stayed with the mother of a friend. A girl who was 12 years old, and at the show later said he raped her. The town was shocked and the country music world was shook up. There were 2 crime charges, but Paycheck's lawyers were able to work out a deal. The charges were lowered to a single crime. He paid a $1,000 fine but didn't show up to court. He said the IRS lien meant he couldn't go on the trip. Someone sued the girl's family for $3 million. It was never tried in court. In 1990, Paycheck filed for bankruptcy right before the case was to start. The case was put on hold because of that, and it was never settled. The timing seemed planned. It hurt the victim still, but Paycheck got away with not getting really punished. He had used his fame to avoid getting in trouble before. Police were told by his band members that he had a lot of problems with women and hid them behind his fame. He was kicked off of another flight for touching a flight worker inappropriately. Other country stars still came together to help him after the Wyoming incident. After he was shot, George Jones and Merle Haggard paid his bail. Jerry Lee Lewis got money to pay his lawyers. The business world kept looking out for him until they stopped. As the problems got worse, the business world turned a blind eye. The people in charge of music didn't want his name on anything. Someone from the record company once said that they would make sure that Johnny Paycheck was never known. They really meant it. He wasn't seen for a while. When he got drunk and felt bad about things on the West Coast, he stopped being the man with the criminal swagger. He lost a lot of what he used to have. He finally got caught after years of hard living. By 1995, he was in terrible shape. He had very bad asthma and bronchitis. They told him he wouldn't live another 5 years. He smoked 3 packs of cigarettes every day and used cocaine, which hurt his lungs. He could not breathe without an air tank. He was barely able to walk. The same lungs that used to roar on stage were now beginning to shut down. Also, the money was gone. It was in 1990 that he filed for bankruptcy. He only had $1,247 left. He has a $300,000 lien from the IRS. He had to offer up all of his tools and stage clothes for cash. To pay for his medicine, friends and old bandmates started putting on benefit shows. He didn't even have money for breathing tanks. He spent the last few years of his life in a Nashville nursing home, hooked up to tools and speaking instead of singing. Friends said it broke their hearts to visit him. Once a man who lit up stadiums, he was now in bed hard of breath. He couldn't always finish a thought. That spirit never left. He was definitely upset and angry that he couldn't do well. He kept fighting though. The late Johnny Paycheck passed away on February 19, 2003. He was 64 years old and in a hospital room by himself. He died with a nurse by his side. Jonathan, his son, was on the way but got stuck in traffic. He was only 20 minutes late. The doctor said that every hour his breathing got worse. His eyes stayed open all the way through, as if he knew what was going on. There was COPD and asthma in the person who died. There was nothing like his funeral. There were more than 200 people there, including country stars like George Jones, Hell's Angels wearing leather jackets, and friends from both the music and criminal worlds. George Jones spoke with tears in his eyes. He even paid his own way into the grave. Hell's Angels carried the body. A lot of paid songs were played at the service. Old Violin, Beautiful Grace, sad songs and faith songs.